weekend, The Nun, the 5th movie in the Conjuring universe, hits theaters, so today we're going to stop and rank all 5 Conjuring movies from the worst to the best. Hi, if you're new here, my name is SeanChandler, and I started this channel essentially because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate to that you like to talk about movies more than the people around you, you're probably in the right place. With that in mind, I would love it if you would share your ranking of the Conjuring movies down below in the comment section. Tell me which ones you love, which ones you hate, and everything in between. With that said, let's get started. Easily coming in last place is Annabelle. Everything about this movie just feels lower quality than the rest of the franchise. It actually feels an awful lot like a direct-to-video sequel to The Conjuring. A big part of the problem here is you've got a movie with a story where not a lot happens and the stakes aren't particularly high. In the first half of the movie, you've got a pregnant woman walking around her house nervous as things move in the background, and then in the second half of the movie, you have a woman with a newborn baby walking around her house nervous as things happen in the background. But there's not a bunch of exciting things to happen, and they might have been able to make that work if they had interesting characters or a great director pulling all this together. But they don't. The lead character is just a nervous woman, and the director here is the director of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, one of the worst movies ever made. So while this movie isn't wildly incompetently made, it is very generic and bland and not particularly entertaining. Coming in at 4th place is The Nun. Now this movie takes the franchise in a wildly different direction by taking us to Romania with some investigators sent by the Vatican, and this castle that we're at is in this isolated location that makes for a very creepy environment. Unfortunately, the problem here once again is that the story is very thin. Once they get to the castle, it's just kind of people wandering around as creepy things happen for about an hour, and then we have a climax, but there's not a bunch of big reveals and twists and turns and plot going on throughout that hour. And once again, the movie might have been able to get away with this if there were great characters populating the film. Unfortunately, once again, the characters themselves are very thin and not given much to do. Now, the movie does give us a bunch of backstory about the castle, and each of the characters kind of tell stories from their past to try and give them depth, but it's all done through flashbacks and exposition. Instead of doing things to develop the characters or taking us on an exciting adventure, we're simply told exposition to kind of fill in the backstory. The end result is a movie that feels pretty hollow, which is a shame because the actors themselves did a pretty good job with what they were given. So while this movie is a big step up from Annabelle, it still suffers from a lot of the same problems. Before I give you my top 3, remember to give me your ranking down below in the comment section. Also, after this video is done, check out this playlist up above of some of my rankings of the top horror franchises. If you love rankings and horror movies, there's probably something in there that you will enjoy. Bringing us into the top 3 is Annabelle Creation. For me, there's a pretty big jump in quality and enjoyment from The Nun to Annabelle Creation, and a big part of that is that this is a movie that knows how to build tension in a direction towards something. Since the movie deals with a set of orphans who really only have each other at this isolated home, it creates this sense like they have nowhere to run that gives this underlying sense of tension throughout the film. The movie slowly builds and ratchets up the tension as it goes along. There's no kind of big scare moments in the first half of the film. It's just sound design creating this eerie sense and an atmosphere all around you. And as the film goes along, there's more jump scares, disturbing imagery, building towards the third act. In a lot of ways, this movie is an example of how to do shared universes right, in that it's essentially a standalone anthology film about Annabelle, and in other senses, it ties very heavily into the first Annabelle and makes that film better. Now, the plot does rely a little bit on characters being very stupid and irrationally not believing people, but besides that, this is a great addition to the franchise. Our runner-up is The Conjuring 2. Coming off the runaway success of The Conjuring, this movie got a big bump in the budget, and you see that on screen. Really, everything about this movie tries to go bigger and better, and that probably is the biggest problem with the film is there's a little bit too much going on here. You've got the main Enfield incident, you've got the Warrens and their own kind of family drama going on, you've got all these side demons and characters introduced, you have the plot line about the people that doubt the Enfield incident, and with so many plot lines going on, the main plot line with the Warrens actually going to Enfield doesn't really begin until over an hour into the film. With all that said, the characters here are still captivating and interesting, and while they're involved in exorcisms, they still feel very grounded. The setting and the set design, once again, are absolutely fantastic, and James Wan is just a master of crafting these creepy situations and jump scares that feel earned. The magic is still here. The individual scenes, characters, moments are all just as good as the first film. There's just probably a few too many of them going on here, so you got a movie that's a little bit bloated and overlong, and if they just trimmed it down by one or two subplots, this movie might have even been better than the first. But coming in first place is The Conjuring. For me, this movie just feels like it's of a higher pedigree than most films of this genre. Based on the plot synopsis, this might sound like a fairly generic film of the genre, but James Wan crafts this incredible world that's populated by interesting characters that also feel very grounded and real. The setting and production are absolutely fantastic. You feel like you're transported 40 years into the past and you're living through this experience that happened in the 70s. A huge part of what makes this movie work are the characters and the performances. By casting actors like Patrick Wilson, Ron Livingston, Vera Farmiga, and having them play the characters not like big flashy movie characters, but like real people that you would know, it grounds this movie that has all these big, fantastical elements to it. In certain senses, these characters might be kind of boring, if not for the fact that they're demon hunters performing exorcisms, and that's what makes them so interesting and what makes the movie so scary is you feel like you're there with people. The combination of grounded characters with a realistic setting and a master storyteller makes for a great scary movie. If you like this ranking, be sure to check out that playlist to the left with some of my best and most up-to-date rankings of classic horror franchises. Thank you for watching, and be sure to keep talking movies too much.